As a kid, I dreamt of living in a fairy tale. You know, a special place with brave knights, kingdoms and castles. But would it still be special if instead of 1 or 2 castles, like in a normal fairy tale, there would be 732, all identical, jammed next to each other. And of course, while they were built, forests were destroyed. Angry villagers ignored. And then one day, overnight, the castles were abandoned, with now just the wind blowing in their empty halls. Yeah, I know it sounds like a horrible fairy tale, and that's probably because it's all true. Friends, welcome to Mudurnu, a small town in northern Turkey that just 5 years ago was mostly known for its historical architecture and hot mineral springs. Yet in the last few years, the reputation has changed. And now Mudurnu is known as the town with hundreds of abandoned Disney castles. It is one of the weirdest places we have ever visited through our years of traveling. And in this video, we will show you exactly why so many locals hate this project. What it feels like to be in a town with over 500 abandoned castles. And also, how is it possible that after spending $200 million, it was just abandoned overnight? First off, we should probably talk about what this project was supposed to be. It's called Burj al Babas. Burj meaning a tower, and Al Baba referring to a famous spa nearby. The name really says it all. The plan was to make 732 castle-like tower houses, and under us, about 70 meters, is a source of hot thermal water. So they were hoping to make a spa in the middle of the whole complex. On paper, that sounds pretty good, right? And so, in 2014, construction began. From the beginning, many locals were against the project. Some because it was meant to be built in a place where a forest has stood for 100 years. But others mainly because the castles had nothing to do with local architectural style. It has nothing to do with Turkish culture. This, by the way, is how most Ottoman-style towns look like in this part of Turkey. But since the houses were never meant to be sold to the locals, their opinions and protests were just pushed aside. Oh, and I just have to mention that the decision maker for the locals, the mayor, was 100% happy with this project. I am sure he just likes Disney cartoons very, very much. Before we talk about how is it possible that a project where 587 castles are already built is now abandoned, let's have a look at those castles up close. As soon as we stepped through the door, it was evident that things here went sour fast. It just looks like the workers have walked away. There's floor heating on the ground. Everything is half done. Materials and gear laying around. The only sound that could be heard was the wind. It's a place where fox can live in a castle. I guess for us it's the closest representation that we have ever seen in our lives of what the end of the world would look like. On paper, each castle was supposed to have 3 floors. And of course, every floor was supposed to have a jacuzzi. The houses also have a basement, and in there, a private pool. Just in case 3 jacuzzis just aren't enough. I'm not sure if that's supposed to be an elevator or... And now up to the tower. That resembles a castle tower. How does this place make you feel?
Eerie. Doesn't look real, like a dystopian world.
Just looking at it, it has nothing to do with a fairy tale. It's more like a ghost town or a place of a horror movie, something. something post-apocalyptic. You could even say it's like a graveyard for all of your childhood dreams. They've piled up in here and nobody has given it any attention for years. So yes, in theory, it would have been quite a luxurious way to live. I'm not sure how would it feel to come out in the morning with your coffee on the balcony and the only thing you see is 500 castles exactly like yours and every window has a person with a coffee. Just, But what went wrong? As I mentioned before, this project was never meant for the locals. In fact, many court cases were held against it. One of them about the ancient forest that stood in a valley before those castles. Another about the style of the houses. And in 2018, thanks to this project, Turkey accepted a law that protects architectural style of its towns so that things like this could not happen in the future. But as we can all see, Burj al Babas was already being constructed. And since it was ongoing, the law didn't affect it. By 2018, the company had even sold about half of the houses at pre-sales. Most of them were sold in Kuwait, and the price ranged between $370,000 and $520,000. By the way, if you buy a house more expensive than $250,000, you will also receive a Turkish citizenship. So most people buying the castles had sadly never seen the project up close. Why I say sadly is because up close, this place does not look good. The materials used are extremely cheap. Details are made out of foam, fiberglass. Half of this town is made out of construction foam. All industrial foam. And although the construction was stopped 3 years ago, the place is already falling apart. And on some towers, wind has just blown away the roofs. Just look at that. A tower falling off from there. The whole thing just feels creepy and weird.
It's quiet and it feels like something is gonna happen any second.
And to us, it looks like the whole project was meant to make a lot of money for a few people and was never meant to satisfy nor the clients or the locals who now have to live next to this ghost town instead of a pine forest. To my knowledge, it's the most expensive abandoned housing project in the whole world. Well, and just like in many fairy tales, when the intentions of a person are wrong, the punishment soon follows. By the end of 2018, the project went sour. By that time, it had more than $20 million of debt. But what rocked the ship even more was the fact that the oil prices fell hard that year. And so the main clientele for the project did not want to spend money on fairy tale castles anymore with no practical use. Although in 2019 they paid back some of this debt and tried to restart the project, then by the end of the year, Corona delivered the final blow. Burj al Babas was bankrupt. And now 587 identical castles stand in a valley which only 10 years ago was full of birds singing and the smell of pine needles that covered the forest floor. It was an eerie yet fascinating experience walking the streets of Burj al Babas, seeing the town that was never more than a construction site, exploring the houses that never got to be homes. I am sure there's hundreds of lessons to be learned from this project. Some about greed, others about intentions. Yet there is one thought that has stuck with me for days. We only know of this project because it failed miserably. But how many others are there like this? Projects that ignore the wishes of locals. Projects that destroy forests and habitats. Projects with the sole purpose to make few rich individuals even richer, while disregarding the needs of everyone else.
Scared. Let's leave. Thank you.
Well, that was our adventure from probably one of the weirdest places we've ever been. Burj al Babas, the 587 abandoned castles. And we hope to see you again next time, because then we're gonna discover much more beautiful part of Turkey. And experience what some say is the most beautiful time in those forests. Until then, you can check out this playlist here, and we will see you next time. Bye!